Hello, I'm Nicki Jarvis, artist in residence at Mrs Smith's Cottage in Navenby, and I'm ready for Project 2 during lockdown. Thank you for joining me. This week I'm going to focus on how to darn a hole. I'm an inveterate darner, as you can see. I'm wearing a woolen that's got various darns all over it. Here's one of my jumpers, and here's a pair of socks. So these are waiting for their third darn. You can see I'm colour coding them. I'm a visible mender, which means I celebrate the act of darning, and I don't care who knows that I've darned a hole in my woolens. And occasionally getting moths, not me, the woolens, there's always plenty of holes to go at. It's a very traditional activity. Our Mrs Smiths of Mrs Smith Cottage, Mrs Smith Cottage, would have definitely used darning as a means of keeping her woolens going. She was very careful with her resources, managed to live with very little, and we're keeping that tradition alive. So I thought I'd invite you to join me and have a go at doing a bit of a darn. I'm using, for this project, some thick woolen socks so that you can see what I'm doing, but you can use fine clothing, fine yarns. I'm going to use a substantial bit of knitting wool so that you can see. All you need for this is an object with a hole in it, a bit of yarn, a needle through which the yarn will fit, so it doesn't need to be a great chunky one like this, but this is useful for today. You can also use a darning mushroom or a darning egg. I'm actually going to use a plastic bottle today. You can just use the back of your hand depending on what you're doing, and of course you need a pair of scissors. So, to start, if you insert your hard surface under your hole, into your object, these socks have been very much darned, but hopefully you can see the bit I'm working on. So there's the hole, and I'm going to take some yarn and snip it off. Poke it through the needle. And then I'm just going to make a quick little knot at the other end. I'm sure purists would say don't do that, leave a long strand and then stitch it in, but I've never noticed a knot troubling me in a sock. And then go into where the hole is, a little bit away from the damaged fabric, like that. And then do a running stitch through, usefully this is large, through the knitted surface. So you could do this through t-shirts, any sort of jersey fabric. And then over the other side. And what I'm doing at the moment is reinforcing the edge. And I'm going to do that again, but when I come to the hole, so it's so much reinforced I can't get through, I'm going to go over the raw edge with my needle and then scoot in to the other side, again covering the raw edge and doing another little stitch the other side, and then hopping across, stitch over the raw edge and then in to the other side. So I'm making sort of, it's like iron bars really, sort of lines across the hole, which is the first step. As with my previous project, I've made a worksheet, so you don't have to keep watching this video to see what to do, though there are plenty of other videos I'm sure that you can find as well. There's a worksheet with step-by-step instructions and photos, so you can use that if you need a reminder. But I'm sure having seen this once, it'll remind you that you knew this all along, and you can get out your sewing kit and have a go. So I've got through to the far end. I'm doing this possibly more speedily and less carefully than I normally would. Now what I'm going to do is go in the opposite direction. So just sort of nipping around the corner, my blunt needle doesn't want to go through. And now what I'm going to do is go in the opposite direction. Slightly ragged at the bottom there because I've got another little hole that clearly I needed to deal with. Sometimes the challenge is not letting your fabric get too baggy and not pulling it too tight so that you can keep an even gauge as you're running across. So now what I'm doing is, as I go across the lines, this is the bit I like the best, is I'm weaving in over and under. So it's a bit of needle weaving, creating some new fabric that replaces the hole. So trying to remember which way I've gone. So going over the raw edge, under, over, under, over. There's another one hiding from me. And then out the other side. Raw edge, under, over, over. So as you can see, I'm using bright green yarn on a grey toned sock. That's wrong. But of course, if you want to camouflage your darn, you just use the same colour as the item you're darning. I've left that a little bit loose. What I would normally do is I would actually work back through and fill in those gaps so that it's a really tight weave. But for reasons of keeping it short for you, I shall just finish off. Just going to poke the needle underneath, pull out my trusty plastic bottle, turn the item inside out, find my needle, and then I'm just doing a couple of keep stitches, which will just make sure that it doesn't unravel itself. No doubt it'll wear out because I wear the socks a lot, but that's okay, I can do more darning. And that's it, my almost finished darned sock. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to know more about Mrs. Smith and our cottage, go and find us on Twitter or on Instagram.